All right, my buddy Nick Wright. We haven't talked to Nick in a couple of months. He's really busy. First things first is a smash hit. It's crushing. It's funny, Nick.
The show's so successful, I've really nicely decorated my house with all these, we get ratings bonuses. Yeah, I mean, just wealth just hitting me in the face. But your producers won't let me show it off. They said I have to turn off all the lights. They said you're shaming Colin Cowherd. Colin's doing this from a closet in, somewhere in, I assume, the upper valley in Los Angeles. And I've got this palatial estate. I can't show it off. That's fine. Maybe at the end of the pod, I'll get up and turn all the lights on so you can see what a beautiful scene I have behind me. But go ahead. Sorry.
I was thinking about this because we don't get you much anymore. And I do want to touch on the Damar Hamlin situation. We're all praying for the young kid. I mean, he's got a huge life ahead of him. He's a wonderful guy. You can see the outpouring of affection for him, right? But I'm in the media sometimes, but I feel like I'm not of the media. They always say that about Austin, Texas. It's in Texas. It's not of Texas.
I've never heard that, but I like that. Yeah.
I'm in Park City, Utah. In Utah. It's not of Utah. We
Correct.
Drink there and party. Okay. Yeah. So is that the reason podcasting is easier than broadcasting is because it's not live. And the reason Broadway is harder than a film is because it is live.
Yep.
And the NFL business is not only live, it's televised.
Yep.
And I'm not going to pick it apart for how they canceled the game. They had first responders that saved his life.
Listen, you and I don't have the exact same politics. We have similar politics on a lot of things. Yeah. And then on certain things, I'm basically left of linen, and so you're so on those things we diverge a bit. And I don't know if this is political or not, but it strikes me as a little political. The idea that the NFL, by definition, must be the boogeyman here. So there is the logistics of what happened. So I was actually listening to a great radio show in Kansas City. It's on a rock radio station, but friends of mine have done it for 20 years called the Church of Laszlo. And they've put on a lot of concerts. And they were talking about this. And what Laszlo, the host of it, said, he was like, because he also thought the NFL being criticized for not instantly saying game off. He was like, does nobody realize there's 70,000 people there, and that there is someone that has to make sure, hey, all of these people don't know the exact circumstance on the field. They're not watching the broadcast. You know what I mean? For a lot of people, the internet doesn't work great in stadiums. They know a player is hurt. And if all of a sudden it is just announced, game canceled, don't you think they have a little concern of, wait, are people going to get out of here safely? Are people
right?
So even if they had measures ready for that, there's a lot of layers it has to go through. And the idea that, and listen, Joe Buck really well. I know him a little bit. I am not doubting that Joe Buck was told, hey, the players have been, it's 5 minutes. But to me, unless you are trying to find a reason to say, bleep you, NFL, the reason the 5 minutes thing happened is it is written somewhere on a piece of paper that, hey,
that's right.
If there is some type of on-field incident and the delay is so long, you are allowed to have 5 minutes to get back warm. And so when someone's like, so what do we do here? Somebody said, well, I guess they can have 5 minutes, but that was never going to be 5 minutes. And it was never going to be played again. And I think smart people knew that, but they like to blame someone. So now that's what I think happened. Now here's my maybe too deep thoughts on it, because we saw people get mad at the NFL. We saw people get mad at tweets. We saw people get mad. In tragedy, people search for a villain when often there isn't one. Often it's just, that was awful. And I hate that it happened. Furthermore, I think lashing out at people prevents people from having to do the moments of introspection of, all right, so if this is no one's fault and this is just the potential cost of football.
Yeah.
Oh boy. What does that say about me who bases my entire weekend around football? What does that say about me? Wait, that's like a hard moral question. Am I morally complicit in this? That's like we need a philosopher to talk us through it. You know what's easier? These guys don't care about the players. Give me a break. Give me a break. And I'm not acting like the NFL has always put player safety first. They clearly haven't. And I'm not an apologist for the league. But I'm going to say one other thing. I don't even know if they can cancel the game immediately without talking to the players union first. I think there has to be a lot of phone calls that happen before something like that can be done. So I wasn't looking for a villain here. And it is people rallied in the end and have done an amazing thing in the GoFundMe. But I wish it was more natural. Instead of searching for a villain, it would have been just as easy to say, oh my God, what a remarkable job by the people who recognized in seconds his heart stopped, knew what to do, unscrewed the face mask, gave him the defibrillation, CPR, all of it. And if you did want to be an NFL apologist, you know what you'd say? Hey, they evidently have a protocol in place for what to do if a player's heart stops, even though in my entire life watching football, they've never had to use it, and it was executed perfectly. I don't know. So I don't know if that's the right answer, but you and I agree on this one.
Yeah, no, I think I try to personalize stories and say, what would I have done? Or since I started the volume, we're up to about 30 employees. And one of our rules is, let's just get it right. Whatever the process is, let's just get it right. And so we don't get too precious on the process. As you know, I've been doing this for 30 years. What we do is small compared to pro football. But over the course of sometimes, you do things in your marriage, on your show, with your kids and parenting, and you come to conclusions in crisis, an argument, a school issue. How can I just get this right? Right?
Yeah.
How can I morally get it right? How can I get the decision right? Things are sloppy. Things are, listen, man, when I watched, there's a lot I didn't know about childbirth, and then I watched it live. I was like, I really like the final result.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff there I could do without. Can I just come in after it's delivered next time? So, all right, I want to talk to you about this. There's two coaches in football that I think bother the media, but Jesus, they're good. Brian Kelly has won everywhere instantly. He had a terrible incident at Notre Dame. A young man died. Yeah. He is gruff. He turns purple when he's screaming at players. Right. And Jim Harbaugh
does a really, really crummy Cajun accent out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Those are in the cons column. But go ahead. Yeah.
And Jim Harbaugh. And because Jim Harbaugh, I think, is on the spectrum, and he's awkward, and he doesn't really need the media. I think I get along with people. I struggle with him. People don't understand. Harbaugh went 44-19-1 in a division with arguably the most talented team in football in 20 years, the Seahawks.
And he took over a team that had won 6 games and went to 3 straight NFC championship games with Alex Smith and Cap as the quarterbacks. And Cap had a nice moment, but Cap wasn't a blue chipper. Alex Smith was considered a bust and immediately contended for championships and contended at Stanford and turned Michigan into a contender. Yeah.
So I thought about this. When we do a show, I have opinions, but sometimes I'll sleep on it. Is that in college, the NIL has actually helped coaches, because it used to be you felt guilty for making money because players weren't. Now a quarterback at USC can make $5 million. Nobody talks about coaches' salaries. But a lot of these situations, at Michigan, you do feel like your salary's published. You're the highest paid state employee at $8 million. Or you go to the NFL, make 18 and nobody cares. Now you get fired sooner, but nobody cares. Is that I think to myself, I wouldn't leave Michigan. But I do wonder now, once the players get paid, the downside, because I'm for the players getting paid, but the downside is, well, shit. If I'm going to have my players paid and they're going to transfer at any time, I'd rather just be a pro coach and make twice the money and not deal with the NCAA. And we're going to lose a lot of these great coaches.
And not have to deal with, is he academically eligible? I would listen, I think some people love recruiting. I think I would hate it. I think the grind of the travel, plus there has to be an element of, and I don't want to sound like an old man, and again, some coaches love it, and maybe that's why they're coaches, because they love that thing, but of like trying to convince a 17-year-old to, date you, essentially, that seems, again, I don't think I'd love it. I don't think it'd be like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I got to fly to Baton Rouge because this 17-year-old kid that I thought was going to come play for me, now I think he's going to go play for Texas. So I have to win over him, his mom, and his dad like that. So I would far prefer pro coaching where you're dealing with grown-ups. You only have to worry about the football part, and you don't have to convince 20, 25 new guys every single year to come play for you. What is interesting to me is it does seem like the money in certain instances, college, you tell me if I'm wrong, Colin, in certain instances, it seems like the money's bigger in college football. So like did Mel Tucker, who's not one of the 15 best coaches, got $90 million? Like no one, very few NFL coaches have that. So I think for certain guys, college is a better deal. Harbaugh, here's the thing I want to say about Harbaugh, because I think Harbaugh is a great coach. And I made the point on your show 5 years ago when I was filling in for you, and then I made it again the other day, that he has an argument that if the question is, I need someone to coach my football team, but I won't tell you if it's college or pro, he should be the number one draft pick. Because you can say, well, I'll take Belichick. Well, what if it's Alabama? Like, well, you know what I mean? Okay, no, I'll take Saban. Well, what if it's the Jets? Like Harbaugh has proof of concept at both levels, instantly good. So I think he's a great coach. The one thing I think the media is getting wrong with the Harbaugh story is this. They're like, oh, the new owners of the Broncos, they're the Walton family. They've got $70 billion. When it comes to coach salaries, the difference between $70 billion net worth and $7 billion net worth is irrelevant. Well, the coach salaries, it's like, oh, they can pay him $20 million a year. So can 80% of the owners. Like, as long as you've got more than $1 billion, you can pay the coach anything. So the idea that the Broncos have this leg up because their owners are so rich, I think people have it wrong. I don't think it's the 3 richest NFL owners have an advantage. I think it's the 4 NFL owners that don't have real money are at a huge disadvantage. So I think those teams are at a real disadvantage. But I think 80% of the teams could hire a $20 million a year coach on a 4-year deal, fire him, and do that 5 consecutive cycles and have $400 million of dead coach money, and it doesn't affect their bottom line at all because they are multi or deca billionaires. I just think there's a few teams, whether it's the Cardinals, the Raiders, whomever, where it's like, oh man, do they have to keep this coach because they can't afford to pay the buyout?
If you're like most men, you want to be confident and you want to look good. But finding accessories that are both high quality and stylish, it can be a challenge. That's where our friends at Vincero come in. Accessories, watches, sunglasses, jewelry. Their top tier designs are sleek and exude class. So if you're looking to stand out from the rest, it's simple. Vincero is the way to go. At Vincero Collective, their mission is simple. Build premium products that can be worn daily, yet are built to last. They design all their products in-house, in small batches, without sacrificing on style. Not only does Vincero make fantastic watches. They also offer a line of iconic sunglasses. All of their sunglasses are polarized and scratch resistant. And all the glasses are made with high quality Italian acetate and steel hinges. Vincero is the absolute perfect gift for yourself or somebody you love. Whether you're shopping for a watch, sunglasses, jewelry, you'll find that special something with Vincero Collective. For a limited time only, limited 20% off and free shipping with our exclusive code Cowherd at vincerocollective.com/Cowherd. Get 20% off and free shipping site-wide with a code Cowherd at vincerocollective.com. Support our show. Use the code Cowherd at VINCERO collective.com. Accessorize your life with style at Vincero. Couple NBA topics. So I try to watch half an NBA game every night in the treadmill.
I love it.
So that's my goal. So I get on the treadmill and I watch half an NBA game, usually like an East Coast game. So I watch Brooklyn, and they're playing really well.
Really well.
And this is where I tend to be in my career. I do football heavy. Super Bowl ends. I go skiing or I go to Mexico, come back, and then I'm totally into the NBA.
Yep.
NFL draft, NFL free agency, but I'm an NBA fan. And I kind of block it off. I do Labor Day to February 10th is NFL.
See, it's so funny. I'm this, just real quick before you get to your question. I know people kind of perceive me as an NBA guy because I'm like the LeBron guy, but I'm the exact same way. So yeah. I might watch a little bit more because of the coast I'm on, and I have net season tickets. So I go to some games and do that. But as far as the media I consume, I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
I don't listen to any NBA podcasts right now. I'm not reading it like I am. It's to me, this is it. Football season is football season with a few big time NBA games mixed in. And then the moment I get back from vacation, it is nothing but hoops for the next 4 months, and then go on another vacation, and then we're in the NFL again. And this is just like the cycle that I'm on. But go ahead.
So one of the reasons I think there are a lot of people in our profession, especially NBA people, that they watch this early season stuff. And I always kind of think, timeout. I mean, last 2 nights ago, the Celtics gave up 150 points to the Thunder.
Thunder.
The Thunder's
without their best player, without SGA. Yeah.
So it's not even. Some teams are rested. Some are exhausted. Who'd you play the night before? It's like the San Francisco 49ers. Everybody that plays them the next week.
That's unbelievable. 0-14.
Or 2-14. So in the NBA, if you play the Celtics the night before and they're arm wrestling you and playing defense, the next night, you're probably not going to play well after. So I watched the Brooklyn Nets, and here's my takeaway on them. They're the Phoenix Suns Steve Nash team. They are totally built for the regular season. You come in, light rest. The guys come in after shoot around. They get 30 minutes of film putting their shoes on. They watch them. And then you got to face Kyrie and Durant and Simmons. Hey, it's a hard matchup. You put them in a series, and I can go at Kyrie 6 times defensively where he won't play. Tough. I can put Simmons on the foul line in any big spot. That Brooklyn is tough with little prep. Infinitely beatable with equal rest.
I agree with that. I think that's a smart take. But they also, I will give them credit. Listen, since Kyrie came back, they're 18-3. They lost 1 game in December. I got 3 potential issues with Brooklyn. The first one is Kyrie's, you ever been to like a construction site and they have that little thing that the days without an incident, and every day it ticks up. It's like 46, 47. We are approaching the most Kyrie days without an incident we've had in about 6 years, which means that sumbitch might be going back to 0 any moment now. Like there's a chance that thing is getting reset. So everyone's like, "Oh, Kyrie's on his best behavior." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, it's been 6 weeks and that's good, but I'm not booking that as the norm." Okay, that's the first thing.
Yeah.
Second thing is this. And this is a good thing and a bad thing for them. Durant is playing some from an offensive perspective, some of the best basketball in league history right now. So I put a thing on the TV show yesterday where NBA.com will break the court down into zones, like not just quadrants, but like there's like 18 of them as far as where you take your shots from, right? And red, if the color beneath you is red, it means you're below average. If it's the color of the court, it means you are average. And if it's green, it means you're above average. On those 18 zones, Kevin Durant had 15 green, 2 beige, and 1 red. The one that was red, he has taken 2 shots from that area. I think he'll probably make the next one, and it'll turn beige or green. And another one, he'd only taken 5 shots. So he is, from every scoring zone on the court, well above average, every single one. And I was like, wait, is this true for all the great players? Nope. I look, Steph, it's like half of them. He has his spots. LeBron, it's like a third of them, but he's killing you at the rim. Luka, it's Durant is great everywhere, and he is taking tough shots. So the good thing is he's an amazing player. The bad thing is they need him to continue a level of offensive efficiency that would make prime Jordan blush as far as what he's doing in the mid-range and all of that. And the last thing is what you said, which is the Ben Simmons in the playoffs part of this, no one is talking about and no one is thinking about, but it is a major concern. I want to say one other NBA thing to you, because Giannis in his last 7 is averaging 40. And the other night at 55. And the Bucks are a game out of first place.
Yeah.
So here is why, in my opinion, Giannis and Luka have shown beyond a shadow of a doubt they are the 2 best players in the league. Giannis 1, Luka 2. Every other great player in this league, either this year or in the last few years, if their second best guy isn't there, the team struggles to win half its games. LeBron lost AD. Team can't win half its games. Steph, a couple years ago, didn't have Clay. They missed the playoffs. Jokic, last year, didn't have Jamal Murray. They're the 6th seed. Durant, this year, Kyrie was going, when he was gone on a sabbatical, there's whatever you want to call it. They're dead in the water. Luka, last year, didn't have a second best player. Whole second half of the season playoff run. It's like, okay, I'll just take us to the conference finals. Giannis hasn't had Middleton all year. He's played 7 games. 7 games he played, didn't play well because he's still hurt. And they're a game out of first. That is, those 2 guys are at a different level. Our teams can be contenders even without our second best guy. And if you give me our second best guy, we'll probably win the whole damn thing. Everyone else, no matter how great they are, and I threw LeBron in there too, because he's still unbelievable, they need their full cast of characters, not to win any games, but to contend. The Bucks can contend based on the power of Giannis alone, and I think the Mavs are showing they can do that with Luka too.
Very good. What do you make?
A year less than you, buddy. It's really
no. What do you make of the offensive explosion in the last 2 weeks? I contend, I would say, every season has what they call the dog days, and I think after Christmas, there's a 3-week lull when you're still experimenting with some defensive rotations. You're not near the trading deadline, so you're not showing off people yet. You're giving certain players rest. And so we're in the dog days are not the end of the regular season because seeding really matters. It's not right up to the trading deadline because you're trying to show off certain people to move them. These are actually, even though the season only starts in October, the dog days are like the day after Christmas until like January 5th to 10th, and that nobody's playing defense right now.
Okay, so I think that's part of it. So I'm really glad you asked me this. I'm really glad. And I have a much probably longer answer than you anticipated, but I think you'll like this. So the NBA right now, it's 113 points per game is the league average. It's the highest it's been in a very long time. Some context though. Other than the last couple years, in the last 50, the highest scoring year was 1985. When everyone's like, oh my God, defense was so hard and they punched you in the face. It was 111 per game in 1985. The only time it was pre-1985 higher than this was the early 60s. This is a sidebar, but I think you'll like this. 1962, the NBA averaged 118 points per game. That was 118 in 1962. So what else happened in 1962? Well, Wilt averaged 50 a game. Oscar averaged a triple-double. Your guy, Dragonfly Jones, part of the volume, pointed this out. Elgin Baylor averaged 38 and 18, but he only played 48 games. Colin, he only played 48 games because Elgin got called up as an Army reservist and could only play for the Lakers when he was on weekend leave, and he took coach flights and then dropped 38 a night on folks and then had a 61-point finals game. Okay, so why do I bring all that up? 62, when all these crazy records were set, different game. They're playing in breakneck pace, and no one can make shots. So it's just shoot, miss, you get a rebound, shoot, miss, get a rebound. Okay, so throw those records out. 1985. Why would that be so high scoring? Wasn't three-point line. It had been invented, but people barely shot it. Well, the ABA folded. The NBA hadn't fully expanded, and you had massive talent. There's too many good players. Too many good players. Then what happens? Late 80s, NBA expands. Early 90s, it expands again. And all of a sudden, NBA Finals games are 85, 83. And you look around and you watch the Bulls Jazz, and it's like, that's Jeff Foster and Jeff Hornacek. And I don't want to just say white guys here, but there's a lot. And it's not, but people don't want to say that, because so much of the NBA is wrapped in like the Jordan legacy. They're like, no, the 90s were great. No, they weren't. So now we go here. 3-point line, huge part to do with it. Undeniable. People are taking a bazillion threes. Here's the other thing. Right now, if someone were to say the three best players in the NBA are Giannis, Luka, Jokic. Well, that's interesting. Global. So now we're getting guys from Greece via Nigeria, Slovenia, and Serbia. Giannis the other night, he crossed up Kristaps and got to the rim. I'm like, okay, that's a 7'4" Latvian trying to guard a 7-foot Nigerian Greek kid out on the perimeter. I'm not saying this because it helps my LeBron GOAT argument. I'm saying it because it's obvious the players are better.
Way better.
The players are way better, and you have the entire world to choose from. And so, yeah, the defense isn't as physical, but the game is smarter. That people understand it better. They understand where the efficient shots are. The three-point shot has proliferated. We're about to bring over a 7'1" French alien who's shooting step-back 1-foot threes. Like, guys, it's just better. And it's not, to me, a coincidence that you go back to the mid-'80s, there was a scoring explosion. It's like you have, oh my God, you have Magic, you have Larry, the ABA is folded, you have Jordan come in, you have all these great players come in, and there were every team, like all the great teams had like 4 Hall of Famers. And so that's my answer. So yes, I agree with you. I think what I think is going to be interesting, because your point is the scoring will go down a bit, once teams care more. Well, right now it's at 113. And in 1985 it was at 111. So if it goes down just a little bit, we're going to be scoring at the same rate as they did in the mid-'80s. Yeah. And that's going to be hard for people to reconcile. But that's what I think is happening. I also think, here's the other thing, because there have been a ton of 50-point games, but they've all been by stars. It would be concerning to me, concerning is the wrong word, but more noteworthy to me, if it was, I don't know if you remember this guy, Tony Delk. He played at Kentucky a long time ago. He once had a 50-point NBA game. And he's kind of known as like the worst player to score 50. That sounds shitty, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If a lot of average guys were dropping 50, I'd be like, oh, these numbers don't mean as much. But it's like, oh, Embiid dropped 50 and Booker and Donovan Mitchell dropped 70s a lot. I'm not going to lie. That was a lot, but it was also, he had 58 at the end of regulation and then went off. Giannis, it's the best players in the league dropping 50. So that kind of makes sense to me.
Finally, I love these, by the way. I always feel guilty. I tell my staff, call Nick. The first sign of no, bail.
No. I love doing it. And I hadn't been on in a while, but we'll do it especially. No, we can do this, Colin. I love doing it. You know that.
So I think I said this years ago when ESPN did the phone, which was a disaster, is that ESPN owed the industry to roll the dice on the phone because they had the capital to take big swings. They were making so much money, $8 billion annually. They owed the industry. It would have, think about the industry today, if it now owned the phone industry and cable TV.
And by the way, those big swings, I never worked for ESPN like you did, but I give them credit anyway for things, also created 30 for 30. That was a big, expensive swing. And it was awesome.
Yeah.
And it was, you know what I mean? It was awesome. And like, so the phone is like known as kind of a disaster, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I think the Amazons of the world and the Apples of the world, to elevate society, artificial intelligence, have the money, take big swings on things because small companies can't. And to advance society, that's important. So one of the things I believe, I've been doing this a long time. I have a very large audience, audio, whatever. I never, ever believe I'm the gatekeeper of any industry. I'm not going to tell people how to broadcast. Skip, you, it doesn't matter. Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith, we all have different styles. I'm a believer in lean into you. Whatever you is, do more you. But I like occasionally, and I believe in this strongly, throwing out a theory that could be absurd because I don't want talk show hosts to feel they're trapped. I think I owe it in a weird way. I see myself as, I'm not going to get fired for a crazy take. Who cares if anybody rips me? I have a huge army of followers behind me. So I like throwing out occasionally something that seems absurd.
Okay. I like that.
Right? Like it's like, I can do it. Who cares? You have the cachet, credibility, and career that you're not bulletproof, but you at least have, you got some body armor on and you can take some slugs your way. Yeah, got it. Okay, so Mike Vrabel played with Tom Brady. He is absolutely one of the smartest coaches in the league. He knows the importance of the position. And he's now in a conference where Trevor Lawrence looks like a top 5 quarterback.
Yep.
He's in a conference with Mahomes and Allen and Burrow and Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. All the good young guys are in his way.
Yeah, and Bryce Young's about to be there.
That's right. And Vrabel is going to get on the phone after this season because there's no dead cap hit for Tannehill. And he's going to say, Aaron, get the F down here.
Oh,
it's
Aaron.
Nashville.
I thought you were going to say he's going to try signing Tom.
No.
Because you said he was friends with Tom. Aaron.
So he's going to say, Aaron. He's going to play to his vanity. Mahomes, Burrow, Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. I need you. He understands quarterback. Aaron's never had great defenses in Green Bay.
The 1 year he did, they won it.
So Green Bay simultaneously would take a hit. But because they're not paying Jordan Love anything.
They could afford it. They can't afford to cut him. That's impossible.
That's right.
But they can trade him. They can trade him and it doesn't kill him.
And they look at their division. Goff's not a superstar. Cousins has limitations. Justin Fields has a defensive coach in a dysfunctional organization. And they're like, screw it. Let's give it a run for 2 years. We found our 2 receivers, by the way. The cap hit isn't as punitive. That my hot take is Vrabel's going to get on the phone and try really hard to convince Aaron Rodgers, and Green Bay's going to say, Christ, we're walking on eggshells for 12 years here.
Listen, I don't think that's crazy. I thought you were going to say Brady's going to go there, and I was only going to say that's crazy because I don't think Tom Brady's moving to Nashville. And again, I'm from Kansas City. I'm not taking a
By
shot.
the way, I'm not comparing myself to Apple or Amazon in this whole scenario.
No, but what you are doing is you are saying people that have the ability to take big swings in any industry should do it. So in the ecosystem of sports broadcasting, I don't know who, if you're not Apple or Amazon, I don't know who is there, whatever it is, that's fine. It's fine. Listen, by the way, this is 40 minutes into a Nick Wright, Colin Cowherd podcast. The people who are still listening either really love one of us or really hate one of us. So it doesn't really matter. Right. So the Rodgers thing, I hadn't thought about him with Tennessee. Here's what I do think. And Packer fans are killing me for this. But I said after they went 4-8 and Aaron had the broken thumb that they should start playing Jordan Love. And now they're like, oh, look at us now. And the answer is really, look at you now. What am I looking at? Like it'd be one thing if you were on this 4-game winning streak because Rodgers is lighting it up. On the 4-game winning streak, Colin, Rodgers has 4 touchdown passes. He has an 87 rating. They are averaging less than 200 passing yards per game. They're on the 4-game winning streak because they have forced 12 turnovers in 4 games. They have 2 defensive touchdowns. Tua, we now know, was dealing with a serious injury and melted down. They played give me a break. I said you got to play Love. And it's not necessarily punting on the season, but whatever. You've got to play Love. And the reason you got to play Love is the question I asked was, are you still in the Super Bowl business in Green Bay? Because if you are, you're not winning it this year. And what you need to do is figure out, can the kid play? And if he can play a little bit, but you're like, okay, he's not ready yet. Guess what? If you're still in the Super Bowl business and you're keeping Aaron Rodgers, someone will trade you a draft pick for him. You can use that to help next year's team because this team's not good enough. If you're still in the Super Bowl business and he is good enough, well, guess what? Then you have the conversation of, do we trade Aaron? But whatever it is, they should have used this time to get information on Jordan Love. Instead, they are going to blindly pick up his 5th-year option. Blindly. Having seen him play 1 game against the Chiefs terribly last year and a half a game this year. It's insane. And they're not going to be able to trade him because nobody has seen him play. They're not going to. Now, maybe they trade Aaron, like you're saying, but the risk there is that Jordan Love's no good. Now, I don't think he's no good, but it's on the board just because he hasn't played. And so I don't think the Packers have handled this right. I also don't think Aaron's made it particularly easy for them. Throughout this process, but I think the idea, Mark Schlereth came on my show and I said, no, it wasn't even my show. It was the day I was filling in for you. He came on your show, but I was talking to him. And I made the point that I thought the Packers should have played Love because they have to decide on his 5th-year option. And he said he believes they have already decided that they are picking it up. And he didn't say he was told this. I don't want to misquote Stink. He said he thinks his theory is that they're moving on from Aaron, that they've seen enough from Love, that the reason they didn't play him in this spot is because they knew this was Aaron at the end. They were going to let Aaron get his final run and see what happens. But it's an interesting situation they have found themselves in. Can I ask you one question before we go?
Sure.
Everyone is saying the NFC is wide open. The NFC has no juggernaut. Why are the Niners not a juggernaut? They feel like a juggernaut to me, man.
How about this? So today, a buddy of mine, degenerate gambler, great guy, he's a fireman in Connecticut, good friend. He sends me shit all the time. He's a basketball scout on the East Coast. He's so great. And he said, for all those questioning Brock Purdy, he goes, Matt Campbell will be one of the finalists for the Michigan job if Harbaugh leaves. He's viewed as a super sharp coach. He said, during Brock Purdy's run, listen to this, you're going to be blown away by this. So in the 4 years as a starter at Iowa State, they were 30-17, 25-10 in the Big 12, and 7-10 record against ranked opponents. Now, that's noteworthy. This is Iowa State. This year with Matt Campbell, 4-8, 1-8 in the Big 12.
Wow.
0-4 against ranked opponents. Do we have Tony Romo, Kurt Warner on our hands? A great player that was undervaluated, if that's a word.
Under-evaluated, sure.
Under-evaluated.
Here's the thing. But I guess my point is, even if he's not a great player, the Niners won a game this year started by Trey Lance. They won a bunch of games started by Jimmy Garoppolo. They're now undefeated with games started by Brock Purdy. Sometimes a team is not reliant on the quarterback. And it would seem to be a team that has Nicky Bosa, Eric Armstead, an amazing defensive coordinator, that Hufanga, who looks like he plays 3 positions at once, the safety they have, the best left tackle in football, maybe the best running back in football, the second best tight end, 2 awesome wide receivers. Team kicks ass, man. And now, am I also kind of trying to speak into existence? Speaking of great friends of yours that have gambling problems, I did this on my podcast, What's Right with Nick Wright, in the preseason gambling show. I did a whole preseason show where I did my season over under bets.
Yeah.
You could get, your guys' people are FanDuel, correct? I don't want to say the wrong, FanDuel. You could get on FanDuel before the season. You could pick an NFC winner and an AFC winner and parlay it. So just pick who's going to be in the Super Bowl. And before the year, Chiefs-Niners was 50-1. Not even a winner. Not Chiefs over Niners. It's just the Chiefs win the AFC, Niners win the AFC was 50-1. And I put $1,000 on it, Colin. So that's a live bet right now. I think the Niners, to me, with what's going on in Philly with the injuries, are the favorites in the NFC. And the Chiefs are certainly at least co-favorites in the AFC. And I think the Niners, I think people are talking about the NFC like it's wide open purely because, I get it, it's not just a rookie, it's a 7th-round rookie, but the kid's played great. Shanahan has proven he can win in the playoffs without great quarterback play. And I think this roster is stacked.
So do I.
Yeah.
And Debo's coming back.
That's the other thing to look at. Which teams this time of year are getting healthier and which teams are getting more injured? Philly is the most injured it's been all year. The Chiefs, nobody cares because it's Mahomes. He hasn't had his number 1 wide receiver for 6 weeks. They haven't had their number 1 running back, who's not very good, but for 5 weeks. They're both coming back. Like the teams, that's something you always got to watch. It's one of the things I worry about with your Bengals. Lyle Collins, like you had that offensive line continuity all year. Lyle Collins goes down. Like that is concerning to me. One last info thing before I go. I don't know if I believe this or not, but it is believe it, it's true. But I don't know if I buy into it. The Steelers are 7-2 when TJ Watt plays. 7-2 when TJ Watt plays. That's crazy. That team's got no one on offense. I know Collinsworth was falling all over himself about Kenny Pickett. Dude's got hands smaller than your daughter, and he's got 6 touchdown passes. I don't think he's a superstar. All right, before we end, hold on. I have to turn the lights on in here so everyone can see what your producers deprive the audience of seeing. Hold on. You can fill for a second.
Wow. Look at that.
Look at this. I mean,
God, that's beautiful.
I mean, isn't it? There's too much lights beaming down. I mean, we got artwork. We got Christmas trees. Beautiful. Middle of Harlem, New York, my man. Living the life.
God, that's
and Colin told me, he was like, Nick, you're going to move to New York City. Rent, don't buy. You gave me that advice. I was like, everyone else like buy. And he's like, man, you're going to live in New York. You're going to live in different places. It's crazy expensive. I think Colin also knew I probably didn't have any money to buy at the time. He was trying to be nice. And I have, and it's great. I miss you.
Gorgeous. Buddy. I miss you.
No, I'm gonna see you in person in Arizona.
The Volume's having a party.
Oh, really? Will I be invited?
Of course.
Can I go?
Of course.
Okay. All right. That'll be great. I appreciate you, buddy.